So when you say rest, it doesn't necessarily mean sleep.
Oh, correct. And these two are different. So rest is you're in a wakeful state when you're resting, right? You could be doing quiet activities, you can be doing puzzles, you can be doing your Sudoku, whatever is a restful kind of laid back activity that brings you some joy. That's rest. Sleep, your brain waves are off, right? Like you are completely in a non-alert state. Your body is doing restorative action without your help. And
Right.
so we now know through just a little bit of defining like how the two are different and how you can use the two to support each other.
Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So today we are discussing the power of rest, silence, and how pausing fuels healing, creativity, and resilience. So, what if the very thing you've been avoiding, the stillness, the silence, the pause between doing, was actually the key to your healing? In a world that rewards nonstop productivity, today's conversation dares us to see rest not as a luxury, but as power. And my guest today is Dr. Brittany Conners, the founder of Optimistic Theory, the pioneering company behind the first ever in-home silent retreats. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you can also find me on Spotify. Thank you. I truly appreciate your support. Okay, so let's get this conversation started. Hey, Brittany, how you doing, love?
Hey, I'm great. It's so good to see you, Angela. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm doing great. We were having a conversation before we came on, and all even with everything that we talked about, rest, right? Especially in these times, rest is
Mhm.
so important.
Mhm.
So first, before we get started with the questions, please tell people, I gave them a little introduction, but please
Yes.
tell them about you.
Mhm.
You call yourself the rest agent.
Agent. Yes.
Tell us all about that.
Yes. So I'm Dr. Brittany Conners. By background, I'm a doctor of occupational therapy. I've been practicing for the past 11, going on 12 years. And my personal story with rest started when my dad had multiple strokes back in 2019. He is okay now. He's back to work, doing all the things, loving life. But at the moment, it was a very, very scary time. I was the liaison and translator between like my family and the healthcare team. I could not afford with time or energy or money to go away somewhere to do a fabulous retreat at Bali or in
Mm.
Nepal. So I really sat and thought about, well, what can I do? And so I came across an article that taught me how to have a silent retreat in my home. I sat on the side of my bed for 8 hours in silence, and that's
Mm.
how I kind of got here today. And so this topic is near and dear to my heart because it's entirely expanded my capacity to understand what life can be when I allow myself to naturally take pauses, to place pauses, and hence that's where the rest agent comes from. It's
Mhm.
almost like a battle between my identity as a therapist when I can encourage and guide you. And then there's this agent that comes in and says, okay, here are the pockets, here are the openings, you're going to take this day off. So kind of marrying the two to become a more powerful force for good to
Mhm.
help those of us who may have some struggles slowing down and or stopping because it might feel like a threat to who we are, to what we're trying to accomplish, and ultimately to our identity as just great people who are trying to make the world a better place.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So you talk about your dad and how this all came to be and the whole rest agent and even your silent retreats.
Yes.
But how did that moment of exhaustion and stillness shift the way you saw yourself?
Yes. So that moment. gave me a window into myself. Like when I was on the side of that bed, I was thinking, I was crying, I was probably sleep a little bit of a time, which was like such a welcome gift. But what it helped me realize was that a lot of the operational know-how that I had was running on outdated systems or outdated kind of information or suggestions that didn't seem to fit that moment in my life. And it's like, do I actually not have time or do I just believe I don't have time? Because today, when I wasn't even planning on it, I found 8 hours, and so it helps me look at myself differently just about the way I was doing things, how and why I was doing what I was doing, and
Mm.
giving me the courage to ask questions. I know sometimes we think about things like imposter syndrome when you're having doubt or you're having questions. There is a healthy realm of challenging your thoughts and questioning that I think more of us can find comfort in engaging in. Like, because you have questions doesn't mean you're questioning your whole existence to the point where what you were doing, what you knew had no value. You're just looking for new value. And so I think that time by myself in that silence allowed me to question myself in a non-judgmental way, in a creative, in a more curious way of this is how one lane or one kind of path in my life has been going. I wonder what other paths could look like. And that ultimately was the biggest takeaway from that day, was just questioning everything in an effort to understand what could be new.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So looking back though, do you think that you would have found this path if it had not been for your family's health crisis?
Oh no. I don't think, because I would have missed it. I would have kept going. I don't
Kept
think I would have
pushing.
had, yeah, and I want to say for context, who I am as a person, I've never been like a push through girl. Like if something has happened, I've always kind of like stopped and taken kind of stock of the situation, but it
Okay.
was literally the pace and the speed.
Hmm.
At that time, where was I in life? I was like finishing up like my doctorate degree. So things were moving fast with that, wrapping up all of the requirements. I was traveling. I had just started my business. And so literally, it was the pace and the speed that I would have missed because there wouldn't have been a window of time. Not that I wouldn't have wanted to stop, but there
Hmm.
was this new opening that presented itself with this crisis.
Wow.
And so I'm really grateful for that opportunity and for me to take it, because I really thought for a couple seconds that, okay, if I maybe spend 30 minutes, and I was really negotiating with even the time that was being suggested. And so I'm grateful for that moment of just taking an opportunity to say yes to something that was scary, something that did indeed force me to make a complete stop and ultimately help me open that window that presented itself to me.
You reframe rest as an activity instead of
Yeah.
downtime. So
Hmm.
why is it so important to change the language we use around rest?
Yes, this language is important because it typically gets a bad rap, or again, it presents itself as maybe a threat to what we're doing, who we are, instead of a contributor to all of those things. And so my background as an occupational therapist, we look at daily activities like dressing yourself, bathing yourself, paying your bills. In our scope of practice, we have what's called a practice framework, and rest is one of these key activities that lends itself to all the other things that I named, right? And so, because of my background, seeing this as something you can plan, you can schedule it, you can practice, you can improve, giving us this activity analysis lens, or meaning looking at something that you do and breaking it down so you can either do it differently or better,
Hmm.
whether that's from external circumstances or something even within you, maybe even a mental health diagnosis. When
Hmm.
you look at rest as something you can do, it greatly changes the game. So just like you could go shopping, just like you could take a trip, just like you can do any of the other things you can do, you now have a new option to say, I can rest. It is actively helping me think better, with it is actively helping me with emotional regulation. It is actively helping me with decision making. It changes how we look at downtime, and it gives it a more active lens to where, okay, I can still feel like I'm doing something because I am.
Okay. Okay. So this is kind of a follow-up question, and
Yeah.
maybe you've answered this in a roundabout way, but how does that shift in perspective change the way people actually practice it in their daily lives?
Yes, the shift comes from the active solution of implementing something that can enrich your day. And so, just like we would take that nap, or just like we would watch one of our favorite shows, if we know
Mhm.
that we can put rest in that space and it can also shift these other things, it changes the game. So, a few other ways to help with the shift is thinking about what rest is through this active lens. One, it's something that can be quiet and effortless. Two, you can do it by yourself or you can do it with a group. Three, whatever you choose, whether that's reading a book, bird watching, or taking a walk, if it supports your other doing, it's something that can be implemented quickly and with some joy. And then four, as long as that rest period, that rest window has some meaning to you, that is something that can help you with your choices and expand your choices other than feeling like, okay, the only thing I can do is stop. No, now you have this myriad of activities that can fall in that lane where you understand that this is active rest and it's actively supporting your health.
So when you say rest, it doesn't necessarily mean sleep.
Oh, correct. And these two are different. So rest is you're in a wakeful state when you're resting, right? You could be doing quiet activities, you can be doing puzzles, you can be doing your Sudoku, whatever is a restful kind of laid back activity that brings you some joy. That's rest. Sleep, your brain waves are off, right? Like you are completely in a non-alert state. Your body is doing restorative action without your help. And
Right.
so we now know through just a little bit of defining like how the two are different and how you can use the two to support each other.
Okay. Okay. You describe silence as a vehicle that unlocks creativity and curiosity. What's an example of something silence revealed to you and surprised you?
My goodness. One of my favorite connections, because that's what I think silence does. It allows the things that are buried from all of life's noise, from all of the to-do lists. It allows the dots that are far away from each other to finally come together. And partially, I would say one of my biggest discoveries was that I could do this in people's homes, right? So, like, I knew that I couldn't go anywhere when my dad was having his recovery period. I knew that this thing had really helped me, but I would have never put together without some silence that, okay, what if I found a new fun way to introduce this as a group activity for my friends, for my family, for people that I didn't know? And it became an aha moment that no one had really touched this sector. No one had really thought to innovate silent retreats that have been largely reserved for either religious or spiritual realms, or you really have to go away. And the dots connected to me then that if this were to help me like it did today, because I genuinely felt renewed. I didn't spend a dime, right? I didn't do anything super important or special, but it was a choice. And so silence gave me the greatest creativity to repurpose something that has honestly been on the brinks of our society and trying to bring it in such a fast-paced world where things are only getting faster to bring these rest stops, whether it's to people's homes, their second homes, their rentals. So I think my business in itself was probably one of my biggest ahas, but it's even in little things that I do when I'm in silence, like some idea that I've been wanting to put together or a meal that I've been wanting to cook or something that I've been wanting to try. I feel like silence like combs the outskirts of my brain and brings everything to the center so that I can see it, not fight it, and maybe do something with it.
I like that. You said see it and not fight it. I like that. I
Mhm,
like that. So
mhm,
this leads me to my second question. We
mhm.
know silence can be uncomfortable for a lot of us because we just we're not bred that way, it seems like, or we've been conditioned. I should say we've been conditioned not to be in silence and really thinking. And if so, how do you guide people through that discomfort?
Yeah, so I got people through that discomfort by letting them know that this is typical, right? We are surrounded with a lot of sound, a lot of noise. There are even decreasing silent spaces just in natural landscapes. So it's no different than, our families, our communities, and where we live. And so, one, just acknowledging that it's not you, it's not just something that you're failing at because you haven't meditated long enough, or you haven't cleaned your house well enough. Letting people know that this is something that you do have to choose. And the second thing is like these bursts of practice. So when I start to meet people, even upon first meeting, so whether that's you hear me at a speaking engagement, you have a consultation with me, I always embed anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes of silence just to do it with you.
Mhm.
Let's practice and see how that felt. What surfaced even in that time. And if nothing happened, that's okay too. But I would say that affirmation and practice are the two biggest ways that I meet people where they are and help guide them through the discomfort. And then the third thing is letting them know, like, hey, you got somebody who is actively with you as well on the journey.
Yeah.
Even though this is probably going into year 7 of me doing these retreats, in my spaces and with clients and with friends and family, I still too struggle with it. And so letting them know that, like, hey, I'm willing to walk with you even as I continue to bolster this practice in my own life and in my own everyday rhythms.
And it's nice to know that you're that honest
Oh,
and
yeah.
saying, I still work on it. Because I
Hmm.
think sometimes when we go to these folks that, as gurus, we'll call them
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it feels like they have been enlightened and they don't no longer struggle with this. How could they possibly
Mm.
understand what I'm going through? So that's wonderful to hear that you admit that, hey, I'm still a practicing, silent retreater,
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
so that,
And it does help the journey in that
yeah,
you don't feel as alone. And
right.
I think even with when you ask me about connections and silence, is that I realize that it's intimidating because we are often told you need to go away and get yourself together and come back to the group, right? Or it's something
Mm,
about you versus turning this into an opportunity for your family, for your partner or spouse, for your friends, for your coworkers. Let us do it together. Let us talk through some things. Let us listen. Let us be quiet and let the silence speak to us. And then let's support each other through it. And
right.
then, hey, let's put another one on the calendar in a couple months and see how we improve. Like, I
Mm,
really, really love helping people feel less alone.
mm. I like that. That's
Hmm.
beautiful.
Thank
So,
you.
as an occupational therapist, you already understood recovery and healing. So, how does rest play into rehabilitation and resilience in a way people don't usually talk about?
Yeah, I think one way that people don't usually talk about is this idea of letting your body do some of the work. Right? We are so quick to try to either get the antidote or aid the process
Oh,
instead of letting the process happen as is. And I understand with responsibility and work, of course, we need things, and at times, like, they have to happen faster than maybe we would want. But I do think that rest is one of the most natural ways that your body shows its majesty. When something has been hurt, it knows what to do. If you
yeah.
don't crowd it, if you don't pack it and fill it with things, it
Right.
can do what it was designed to do. And so, although we might have these elixirs or these kind of quick fixes, I don't think we give our bodies and our minds, for that matter, the
Mm,
chance to really show the awe and the power of a natural design. I think another thing is that, like, we don't often think of rest as a way of connection,
okay.
right? Because we feel like we're not doing anything. Why would somebody want to just come sit by my bedside or
Right.
come sit with me through this thing?
Mhm.
Humans being together is therapeutic and healing. We let out endorphins, we let out all of these things that connect us from a bio perspective, that if we allow ourselves to just be in the presence of one another while we're trying to heal and recover, instead of again trying to duck off and get back to it as fast as we can, or just show that, okay, I'm competent, I can do this on my own, I don't want to be a burden. There's a lot of healing properties for us being with one another in our rest, in our recovery, in rehabilitation stages. That's why it's so important for when we have our loved ones who are maybe, let's say, in assisted living facilities or homes. That's why it's important for you to come visit. Or if we have a child who's in the NICU, that's why it's important for those nurses and that staff and family to constantly be around. I don't think
Okay.
we think about what it means to help us heal each other by presence.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So have you seen rest accelerate healing physically, emotionally, or otherwise?
I have, I will say, I have seen rest accelerate a lot of mental discomfort. Let me say that.
Okay.
Mental discomfort, whether that be from challenging situations, challenging decision making, the state of the world. I have seen it really in these arenas bring a level of relief and space for people. And one example that I can give is usually when I'm doing community work, I might do like a silent session for an hour. And even in that hour, let's say we're in silence for about 30 minutes, the folks who come and sit for that 30 minutes leave light, right? I might have literally been able to see so much of a heavy posture coming in, and they're
Hmm.
at least sitting up or standing up a little bit easier. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so, and I think partially it is because one, we're doing it together, and two, something happened that we didn't expect. We didn't expect to leave out lighter because we were so worried about if we were doing it right or not.
That, that, that. How do you, I mean, how do you help people? And maybe that's not the discomfort of it, but how do you help people understand that there's no right or wrong way to do it?
Yeah, I would say, Angela, that is discomfort, right? We want to do well.
Yeah.
For the people that we're showing up for, or maybe even the other community members, we want to show. And I think all of us, we want to belong and we want to show that we can contribute. So if I'm coming into the space and I'm bringing the bad energy, or I'm not doing this in a way that's going to help myself and other people, I believe we are thoughtful enough to think about that. And that does become a challenge and a barrier.
Okay.
How I help people walk through that or even sit in that most of the times is from the gate. I let them know this is not something that is atmospheric, meaning there is no way that it's supposed to look. So if in this 30 minutes you take a nap, I'm not going to wake you up. Now, if you snore, I might tap you, but so from jump, really setting the guidelines for this is a space to be curious. This is a space to let what happen will. It gives us freedom when everything is so regimented for us. We're starting to have struggles with unstructured time and space.
Hmm.
So telling people that, giving them very clear instructions, I would say that that's the second thing that I do really well, is giving these very clear instructions before we kind of sink into the silence. That also helps us understand what may happen, but also to be open to what does happen. I try not to guide too much because then I'm getting to the point where I'm telling you what should and should not happen. But as long as I can lay out some safety things, some things that may happen and that you may experience, and help you open yourself to what could be, that usually helps relieve some of the discomfort as well.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
your mission is to make rest a shared culture to value. What do you see as the biggest barrier to that right now?
Ooh.
Probably a lot of barriers right now, like we discussed earlier, but
I really believe that one of the biggest barriers to that is acceptance without doing. Like, who am I if I'm not doing things? Who am I to my family? Who am I at work? I think it's accepting that you can still be this full human, this full contributor, even when you choose to do less or to do nothing. And I think even just the thought process around that is like huge because we have not yet conceptualized what it means to have this be something that we all do together. I know years past, we used to have things like kind of mandated times off or stores would be closed, but with everything kind of open at all times, with the invention of online shopping where you can get anything you want at any time of the day, there are very few windows when collectively we
Mhm.
are doing less or we are doing nothing. So I think just like the understanding of like we're still going to belong, people are still going to like us, we can still be part of a community even when we step away or we choose to do less. I think that's one of our biggest barriers.
Okay. Okay. So you've guided everyone from families to executives. Do you notice different challenges when teaching rest to corporate leaders versus a parent at home?
I do notice differences and truly the difference just is the goal. With my parents, it's like the well-being of the family, and with the execs, it's the well-being of the company.
Okay.
So it's like I would say the difference is probably the goal, but there's a lot more similarities than not.
Oh,
I think also things that work like productivity keep folks up, and what are our outputs, right? What are the numbers? What are the metrics? That
mm,
tends to really be hard for my execs because again, it's one of these situations where if I don't hit this goal, this number, this very tangible thing,
yeah,
what does that mean for the company? What does that mean for our identity? Are people going to trust us? I mean, it is very true that we might lose business or people might think twice about doing business with us. And of course, you and I both know that as business owners, that's not what we want.
right,
However, I do think execs often forget their human side of their business.
right, right, right,
That you have humans who are making this mission possible. You have humans who are making these metrics even possible. And what could it look like to add some flexibility, right? And to add some creative problem solving about how to reach said goals that don't completely include cutting things out or stopping. I can
right,
completely respect that. But I think that's like the biggest I would say obstacle for my exec friends is just like that reputation. Is our brand still going to be really trusted if we're not showing up in all the places at all the times for all the things?
Ooh, I don't miss corporate America
Ooh, at all, at
at
all.
all.
But that's why I go back to help my friends and help the people who are genuinely, searching for
Yeah,
solutions that feel good, that don't feel like we have to sacrifice who we want to be,
right.
and the planet for that matter, sacrifice health and well-being. I'm
Yes,
really loving that there's a shift in the corporate world of at least trying to understand what could be similarly to how I had that day myself. There's a lot of execs wondering and trying to imagine what does this look like when we add silence, when we add these capacity building exercises and tools.
right.
Where could that lead us next?
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
which group surprised you the most, or surprised you the most in how they embrace the silence?
I would say parents
Oh, okay.
and specifically moms. I think the most surprising thing about moms was that they didn't realize how much they carried the rhythm and how much influence they would have on changing said rhythms for families, right?
Yeah,
So I think for moms, it's like, okay, I have to keep going because everything and everyone is depending on me. And they hadn't had a chance to think about, well, if I start doing things this way, then I can also positively influence the amount of times, okay, as a family, we take breaks. We'll just do a story time instead of being in front of the TV. So
mm,
I think moms felt like they unlocked superpowers that honestly have already been there, but giving them a new way to look at their influence because I think moms don't get enough of hearing that they are very influential people.
right, right, right. And that has always been a pet peeve of mine because I was never a stay-at-home mom, but being a
Mhm,
stay-at-home mom,
mhm.
it's a full-time job. You're just not getting paid for it. And if they were to get paid, they would be six figures easily. Should be six figures easily.
Come on, no doubt. And
And the
so
more children you have, the more you get paid.
it's like having them have that aha moment of like, one, I can do this without guilt. I
Right.
can do this with my family, right? This doesn't stop our family rhythms. This actually will help our family be better. But that she had the power, or they had the power to
Yeah.
implement this, and everybody was going to be on board. They had yet to see what they could leverage. I think
Mm,
that's what was the best surprise. And like just giving them all
nice.
these little ways that, like,
Nice.
yes, you can yield this power and you can yield this power for good.
Nice. Okay, I like that. So
Mhm,
you call yourself the world's first
mhm,
rest agent. If
mhm,
rest were treated like a vital resource like water or oxygen, how
mm.
differently would we live?
Ooh. My goodness, I think we would be way more empathetic. I think we
Ah,
would be, I know we would have a lot more space for creativity to see
mm,
things as they could be. Um, I believe that a lot of our health problems would subside because
mm-hmm,
we would be able to hear our bodies, right? These inner indicators, I think we would be able to hear them
mm,
and honor them a lot better.
mm,
If there was, silence and rest and collective rest at that, to where it is the norm for us to respond, and it is the norm for us to respond with care,
mm.
not just to get it done, not just to check it off, but to really have solutions that change the lives of everyone around us, not the quick fixes.
Mm.
We
Oh,
have lost I'm really afraid we've lost the ability to really discover and imagine. There's a lot of pressure to already know. There's a lot of pressure to already be going. And if we treated rest like a natural, just coveted resource, I think that we would harness so much of our inner beings
yeah.
and connect them better with the physical world. We would be treating each other more kindly, but our planet more kindly.
Mm,
We would
mm.
be,
All
we would
through
be,
just rest.
come on, all through rest.
Wow.
I think that we would be really thoughtful of how we relate to one another,
Hmm.
and being able to truly listen, truly hear and attend. Like I got off the phone with my mom like maybe a couple hours ago, and she was telling me about one of my aunts who unfortunately had like a fall over the weekend.
Mm,
And we're talking through that as they're getting older. They're in their 60s
right.
and 70s. And, as an occupational therapist, I know that falls can be deadly, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, what can we do to, modify the environment? What can we do to help my aunt still do her activities? But most
Right.
importantly, the mental health side of that. And so when I was talking to my mom, she's like, "Oh yeah, I just told her that she's going to be all right. She should just get up and she should just keep going. She doesn't have time." And I had to pause, even with my mother, to say, well, Mom, what if we sat with her while she told us how sad she was about this fall?
Mm, wow.
Can we
Okay.
do that? Can we do
Right.
that together? And I could sense my mom's discomfort, but letting her into this opportunity, what if we all just sat and rested in that? Just for a couple seconds, even.
Mm,
You don't
mm,
have to dry your eyes so quickly. You don't have to rush and get back, but honor the fact that she's scared.
right.
She's afraid. And we almost have to create time to feel natural emotions now because things are so fast and we are expected to recover in the blink of an eye.
Right. With you saying that, it reminds me of my friend. She would always tell me when I got frustrated or something was going on,
Mhm,
she would say, Angela, you need to just sit with it and let those emotions come out, come to the surface
mhm, mhm,
before trying to just push them away and keep on going. So what you're saying is basically the exact same thing, and that's a form of rest. You're sitting with that emotion, truly sitting with that emotion and
Mhm.
not just pushing it away to get on to the next thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
You're hearing it exactly correct. And what I would add to that is modeling it so that when we do get with and relate to other people, that we're not inadvertently rushing their processes.
Mm,
We carry that with each other, right? And so when we're sitting down and and I might not be trying to rush or hurry this process, but when that's what I'm bringing, now I'm passing that to you, which means you could pass that to someone else. But what if instead we pass this, let's sit in it. I will sit with you in it. I will be silent with you while you cry. If I cannot cry or I'm uncomfortable with even those emotions, can I sit here and breathe and just do my best to be here the best way I can?
I think that's a big problem with society that we don't like to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We've been basically told in certain ways, you don't need to feel uncomfortable, just push through it. And that even goes with sitting with a friend or a family member and watching them go through that grieving or emotional process. It's hard for us. So we have lost that ability to just really sit with those emotions and let them come to the surface.
Yeah. And I wish that I could put those two scenarios side by side where the one, we kind of we're strapped for time. We want you to feel better now. And the other one right beside it where we both sit.
Mm,
I really wish I could put those scenarios side by side and show us that this second one, you're
mhm.
going to see a lot more joy and light in life by letting it happen and
Yeah.
resting in that moment instead of trying to speed by it. Because what did we learn other than we can't express, other than we have to further suppress, which is
Mm,
more painful than opening ourselves, no matter how hard it is, and allowing things to come in that can support us, whether that be the word of somebody, the prayer of somebody, the presence of someone, or even the visual of seeing an affirmation.
mm.
Opening is what is going to allow the healing to get in versus closing off and zooming forward.
Right, right. You should do a clinical trial. You're a doctor. Do do a
Yeah, no,
clinical trial.
that's a great idea because people need to see it, people, and that's what I've been hoping to do with these retreats. It really is the before and after transformation. To me, that's been the closest thing that I've been able to get to the side by side
Yeah,
clinical comparison in real time because people need relief now.
yeah.
And I wrestle with that. I definitely want the trials. I definitely want these things to exist. And the fact is that people need relief now. And so, for anybody who's listening or watching, do your own before and after.
Yeah.
Maybe I try one scenario where I rush through, and the next time, maybe that same challenge comes up, and I just sit there for 2 minutes. If you can do that and think about that before and after, how were you different? How did you feel? What came to you? Where was your relief found?
Yeah. So, in a culture obsessed with productivity, and many people feel guilty about doing nothing, I'm
Mhm.
one of those.
Yeah.
How do you help people untangle that guilt?
Ooh, what a ball. What a ball. What a ball. I help people untangle that guilt by trying to pull the thread on where it came from, right?
Mm,
I,
okay.
I just ever so gently, because it is such a gentle topic. Where did this guilt come from? Because we did not arrive with it. So,
Yeah.
are there any clues in our lives, in the lives of our family, in the life of work, where we've either seen somebody be punished, we see somebody get looked over, we see how others are treating people who choose to take time off? Where did it come from? And immediately, if we're able to find even the slightest of things,
Hmm.
what can we do differently? So I try to immediately give either 1 to 3 ways to reframe immediately, and then 3, practice. Right?
Mm,
So if I feel guilty because of something that I hear very often is, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
hmm.
And
Okay.
I just had this conversation with a client who is a caregiver who
Hmm.
felt really guilty because not only does she have her own family, now she's taking care of a grandparent and she has siblings, there's other family members, but she's the one that usually shows up. So if Dr. Connors, if I don't show up,
Hmm.
does my grandmother get changed that day? Does she get her meal that day? And there's real anxiety about what if it doesn't happen. I always affirm that. I always affirm, well, you're right. Because you're changing habits, and I introduced the conversation about habits and routines and expectations. You're
Hmm.
absolutely right that something could be different this time. However, what if we begin a new habit? And sometimes that habit starts with talking to your grandmother. Maybe I can't come these 3 times a day, but I can come one a day. How would that feel? We are
Mm.
so afraid of those conversations. We are so afraid of letting people down. And it's usually a lot more harsh in our own minds than when we come together and we put it on the table to co create solutions. There's a lot more space than we have realized. So, once we pull the thread, once we reframe and practice, I start asking them to ask for accountability. So, for that person that you're helping, for the people that you're saying that you're not going to show up for in this way at this time, hey, when I say that I need this break, if y'all call me or I call y'all, do not answer or remind me of what my goal was, right? Like
Hmm.
gently remind me, we know you, we love you. We know that you want to do this thing and we remember that you asked for this.
Yeah.
Redirect me to what my goal was because I'm going to need that help.
So have you personally ever struggled with that guilt?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. When my dad was in the hospital, it was myself, my brother, and my 2 sisters. I'm the OT, so I'm already the healthcare professional. I'm the doctor at this point.
Right.
I have to show up in many hats. And so when I wasn't able to do all the things, I felt extremely guilty. And then I felt guilt in saying, well, Dad, I can't come to rehab today. I know you like me to come and kind of watch what's going on because I know what should be happening. But
Right.
for this day, I just don't have it. And to sometimes see that look in his eye like disappointment or fear
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
part of your confidence, right?
Right.
That's extremely hard. But once we talked and I cried and he let me know it was all right, little by little, it's like, okay, it's okay for me not to show up. I had to speak that out loud. I had to say it out loud and let myself know it's okay that I'm not doing this. Here are the other ways that I'm taking care of him and myself that
Right.
I can so that I can return better to doing my part. And that's what ultimately helps me with a lot of my guilt was
Hmm.
understanding this whole arena of possibility that I hadn't even thought of.
Right.
When I do this, what can it benefit? How
Okay.
can this actually, I've only been thinking about what will it hurt, but I haven't exactly thought about what can it help. And once I got help thinking through that and I let my loved ones also give me ideas, whew, what a relief. What a joy to
Yes.
be in that moment. Sometimes it felt like forgiven. Sometimes it felt like accepted. Sometimes it felt like, oh, this is a new way that I can show my love for you and that we can show love for each other by showing where the boundaries are and the needs are and honoring them as they are. Even if maybe we don't agree, even if we're not sure, let's try it.
Mhm.
Let's try it.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
So silence often reveals truths we've been avoiding. What's a moment when silence reveals something unexpected for you or for one of your participants, your clients?
That's a good one. I'll try my best to do both. I will start with one of my clients first. It was revealed to one of my clients that she just never took time for herself because she didn't think she was worthy.
Mm. Yeah.
And that one was in a room full of other women. Just open the floodgates.
I bet.
Because
I
you know what
bet.
I mean? Like
Yes.
open the floodgates because it was such a relatable moment for all of us. And we were women across ages, across generations. But for every woman in that room to be hit because they felt some part of that. I think that was probably a memorable one that also turned into more healing for us all, for people to start bringing in their own examples. So that was one that felt really special to me for a client.
Okay.
For myself, silence had revealed that at one point I had been playing it way too small. And I had been very used to like taking care of the people right immediately around me, my family. And it just became very clear that beyond this business and what I'm doing with these silent retreats, because yes, to this date, I have not found any other company that is bringing silent retreats into homes, into where people are. I realized that more people needed to experience it on some level that was beyond my comfort. And so even now to this day, I'm getting ready. The business will be 7 years old in January, and
Congratulations.
thank you. I'm preparing to launch ticketed events for silent retreats here in Kansas City. So I'm going to
Okay.
celebrate year 7 with a half day silent retreat, maybe 2 of them. I'm still playing around with how it's going to look,
Yeah.
but really starting to unleash this idea despite what I'm seeing. And, I read a Business Insider article that says, you know what, I sacrificed my 20s and 30s and now I have a net worth of $20 million and I didn't sleep and I didn't regret it. Sometimes when I see that, I'm like, how am I supposed to compete with that? How am I supposed to help people understand the value in creating what I'm creating? And the
Right.
silence has all but yelled at me that not only is it not supposed to be the catch-all solution, it
Right.
just needs to exist so that someone knows when they're struggling with this, that there is somebody who says, I hear that struggle, I know that struggle, and I want to provide something to make that a bit easier. That's what I need to amplify this mission for.
Mm.
And that's why it needs to be bigger and go beyond my little sphere that I've been trying to keep so to myself.
Right.
I have to push this out and I have to do this in a culture that says what you're doing doesn't matter. It doesn't have tangible results and value. I know that it does. And now I
Mhm.
have to get out and make sure that it's visible enough so
Right.
that people can at least reconsider. And if I have helped anybody imagine or consider that they can live their life differently, the goal is met.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, and I think people don't really see the value
Hmm.
of what not just of what you're saying, but the
Hmm.
whole value of this mental, spiritual healing that
Yes.
we so desperately need. And like I said, before we came on, we kind of touched upon some things that we won't touch upon here, but
Yes.
that's what that is so lacking. And yes, it's the health, the whole health and wellness is growing, and
Hmm.
this is going to be a part of it that I mean I had never heard of,
Yeah.
a rest agent or resting as like you said as an activity or resting to help that creative, we just don't think of rest that way. So I can see this once people realize the true value of what you're bringing. This is going to be something that people are going to be like, you know what? I yeah, I need to go to that retreat because I need something in my life to help me, my central nervous system, everything. I need something to help
Mhm.
me really rest and calm down and come back to a peace that, most people forget that it's there.
Yeah, and my hope is that for the people when they hear the education about this, and I just want to thank you so much for this time, is that we begin to say, we need this. We
Yeah,
need to go ahead, girl, and get that chalet and get that lake house or do this. And
right.
y'all, let's all come here and
Yeah,
do this silent retreat. No, we don't know how it goes. No, I don't think I can last 15 minutes, but with y'all by my side,
right.
I am more encouraged. I am more empowered to try it. So that's my hope is
Yeah,
that We need this, and
Yeah.
let's invest in it. Let's give it a try, and let's tell others how it did help us and how we will take that with us in our everyday lives so that we can not only make our own lives better, but the
Yeah.
lives of everyone around us
Yeah.
that much better.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Well, I already, and I say this to a lot of the ladies that I interview, that, my whole dream is also to have, do retreats for
Mhm.
women 50 plus. And this
Yes.
this is something that they would definitely, need. It's,
Mhm.
because we haven't been resting, and I'm the Gen X generation.
Mhm.
So by the time we hit our 50s, late 40s, we've had decades of not resting.
Whew.
We've had decades, and
Mhm.
that's something that, we really need in this age group, going into our, like I say, our next chapter. This is
Yes.
something we definitely need. So, I hope the ladies who are listening, reach
Yes.
out to you and experience what you have to offer, because it is definitely needed.
Yes, yes, because now we have time, we have space, we have education, we have
Right.
models, and we can have those role models in each other to where
Exactly.
when my friends started seeing me take off, I mean, the ideas started flying. Like, even for my girlfriends that have kids and have families, I don't have those things yet.
Yeah.
So sometimes it would be like, well, how could I do it with my life? It just opened small little doors and small
Yeah.
little opportunities. Like, okay, this is what my family likes. This is how it could look. It went from not possible to like, okay, I have an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope it sparks that for the women, the ladies that are watching now, and you become those models of rest where somebody else can see what you've done and it will give them an opportunity to try.
Because we have to remember, rest is not being lazy.
It's not, oh, far
No,
from it. From up.
not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
So rest is usually imagined as something private. How do you transform it into a shared, even communal experience?
Yeah, one of the easiest ways to transform it is to talk about it. If you're planning that time off, whether that is something that you've scheduled or like, you know what, I need a mental health day. Let me tell somebody about it and why I'm doing it. That
Okay.
has been like the easiest portal to make it a communal experience. It's just talking about it. And I love doing that when I'm looking for pockets for myself or I'm listening to one of my girlfriends and I'm like, "Ooh, there might be a window somewhere in here, sis. Let's talk to our other friends. What we doing? Can we get a trip? Can we do this? Can we
Right.
all like kind of do nothing from where we're at, remotely?" So
Hmm.
talking about it has been like a fun way to make it communal. And then if we can get that step two of that accountability, also makes it more communal.
Okay. Okay. So you link optimism with silence, which feels almost paradoxical. Silence is often thought of as a series as of series or heavy. How do you see them fueling one another?
Ooh. So, optimism for me is that hopefulness and that confidence for the future. And sometimes silence is the direct opposite, where it can feel like void, it can feel like uncertainty. But where they connect is possibility. I think
Mm,
that's how I would easiest compare the two. With that uncertainty, if you're able to reframe, if you're able to dream a bit in the void, I
mhm.
think you can create possibilities from what was once fear, what was once dark. You can bring light to what can be or what may present itself. I love those moments when there's something that has come across and I hadn't even thought about it, but I just catch it and I just take some time to examine it. And so the two for me link through what the possibilities can be.
Okay. Has your optimism ever been tested by silence?
Yes. In business, a lot. Because as I'm booking, as I'm waiting, as I'm getting the information, it gets quiet because we want it and we're afraid. And I have to do just the right amount of encouragement and nudging without pushing too hard or, taking it too fast. I too, even in the transactional sense of it, have to make sure that like, hey, this silence is not against me. That I gotta
Right.
let some of the things work
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the silence. And To me, that has become more of a bright spot, a brighter sign, the better I can withstand that weight and that silence. But also, people's wheels are turning. And I didn't realize that for a long time. At first, I was like, oh, this is such a bad sign. They didn't say yes like immediately, or it's taking too long. When
Yeah.
in reality, I had not realized that I had truly giving them something new to think about, something
Mm.
new to struggle with. And that is good because
Yeah.
if there's struggle present, that there is learning. So even if they consider and that consideration leads to a no, they considered it.
Right.
And I have to see that as a win.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, Miss Dr. Connors. Oh, Brittany, thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening, just a very, I don't, it really brings my heart joy because
Oh, thank you.
this is something that no one talks about. I've never heard of a
Mm,
silent, well, I've heard of silent retreats, but
mhm,
in the way that you are
mhm.
bringing it forth and making it more available to everyone. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing and your knowledge and your great ideas of how to, even make it bigger. So
Yes.
thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on,
Yes.
and I definitely want to have you on again, especially after once you have your one in Kansas City, I definitely bring you back on and, talk about how it went and,
Oh, I'd
and,
really love
yeah, yeah. So is there anything else you want to add at the end just to wrap it on up?
Yes, I want to add some things that people can practice
Okay.
really quick. So
Okay.
I leave people with the 2-15-2. If you can remember this, if you don't remember
Two
anything
fifteen
else.
two. Okay.
So the first two, 2 minutes of silence. Try to replace either that podcast, the music, whatever you're filling space with. Try to replace that with 2 minutes of silence.
Mm.
Okay. I want
Okay.
everybody to try to do that within this next 7 days. 15. After 15 minutes of being in silence, your ability to self regulate improves greatly. So the next time you have a challenge, you're feeling uneasy, you're feeling anxious, or maybe even depressed,
Mm-hmm.
try 15 minutes of silence to see what your self regulation can do. And then the
Mm.
final two is 2 hours. So there's been lots of great research that after 2 hours in silence, that the brain actually begins to regenerate cells. So
Mm.
within the next, let's say, month, if you can carve out some time, and even if you don't do the two all in one setting because you're practicing, that's fine. But if you can, try to set out a 2 hour block where you practice being in silence and write about your experience.
Mm. And now that silence could be walking or
Hmm.
being in nature, but it's
Yep.
silence.
Just
You
silence.
you yourself and you.
Yep, yep. You yourself and you. Don't try to suppress any natural sounds. The goal is to try to be in silence the best you can, retreat within, and
Mhm.
just honor that time
Mm.
by trying to let the 2 hours do what it does and see
Mm.
how you feel. But take note of it. Take note of what you notice after 2 hours.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm work on that.
Yes, I see
I
the
can
wheels
I think
turning.
I can probably do the 2 and 15, but the 2 hours, that's yeah.
I see that's why our challenge is so we might not be able to do it immediately, but now we have some. You see already, we got something to shoot
Have
for.
have something to shoot for, definitely. Definitely. All right, everybody. Thank you again for
Thank you.
joining us. And I'll have Dr. Brittany Conners' information in the description below so you can check her out, schedule an appointment with her, get a consultation, but hit her up because she has something I think is very valuable to all of us. So thank you
Thank
again for
you.
joining us. And I will see you guys again real soon. Bye.
Bye.